we're going to record this, and then obviously we can send it out to everybody that signed up for it, and then you can go ahead and just distribute it however you feel necessary. This has always been a really popular webinar that we do, and I think it's lots to do with people have heard about TSANet, or maybe they don't really know what it is or how to use it. So with turnover and people coming in and out of organizations, it's always a good kind of webinar to get started with in reference to TSANet. It's a real exciting time for us. I'll tell you, Paul, who is my counterpart, is just finished up a focus group meeting over in India last week, where he had on site, I think, about over 20 companies that sat in on that focus group, and just today and yesterday finishing up a focus group in Europe. I believe it's in Germany. So there's a lot going on. He is doing a lot that has to do with TSANet Connect, which we're actually going to kind of dive in and talk a little bit on that. But I've really broken up this presentation into 3 different areas. And one of them is to get you a general idea and understanding about what TSANet is. And I think this is important because we're a little bit different. We're not a vendor coming in here selling services or products, that kind of thing. We're an organization. And we've got over 600 members. Actually, we've surpassed that now. We're well on our way into 600 members. But we're a little bit different in that we were set up as an organization to serve the industry. And this goes back to 1993 when we got started. So in the U.S., we're actually formed as what they call a 501c6 not-for-profit. That means that we have to operate under a certain set of rules. But for the big part of it is that we're a very member-driven organization. So everything that you're going to see here is something that our members told us, this is what I want you to do. So it's a little bit different that we're not motivated by profit. What we do is we're funded by the members that pay dues. But everything that we do is, again, for the industry and for our members. So we have an elected board of directors that I report into, that Paul reports into, and that changes all the time. So we operate under a set of bylaws. I think the other big takeaway out of this is that we're trying to form an organization that makes it very easy for you to establish collaborative support relationships. That really is our mission. From the get-go back in 1993. And what we've done that makes a big value add is that we've created this neutral legal and operational framework, which I'm actually going to show you, and that's part of the thing about TSANet Connect is what we're moving to. But one way to look at this is what we actually did was we got all of these big companies' lawyers to agree to a common set of verbiage. And we call that a code of conduct. And that code contains language about how are you going to handle confidential information? How are you going to handle intellectual property? And every member is operating under that same legal framework. Now, we've got ways for you to create different relationships within that framework. But on the legal side, everybody is at least starting that out as the base framework. And then from an operational perspective, we've also got our member web. And a lot of people will use that, where that's what we're getting ready to change into a different collaboration environment on the TSANet Connect piece. But this is important to understand, and this is why there's a lot of companies that are on this call that are what we call limited members. And I'll walk through the different levels of membership. But they've signed into a one-to-one agreement or one-to-one relationship through TSANet with another vendor. And the reason that other vendor hosted that relationship is because this is the path of least resistance for them to set up a framework for a support collaboration to occur. So we're going to walk through that a little bit more in detail, but some big takeaways out of this from an organizational perspective is we've done all this work. It makes it very easy for you to be able to utilize your membership in TSANet to do a lot of different things when it comes to setting up a relationship. So we'll walk through some of that in a little bit more detail. This is really, I call it my CJ and Run slide. When the rubber meets the road, this is what it's all about. And that is that you've got a customer out there typically that is involved in a solution of some kind that has to do with another, could be a competitor, it could be a partner, hard to say, what it could be, but between the two of you, you've got a situation that you need to work with each other to get it resolved. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it can typically be very frustrating for the customer because they don't want to get finger pointed around. That's the last thing they want to hear is, well, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And then you call the other vendor and they say exactly the same thing. So they don't want to get tied up in that. But through TSANet, you've got a relationship with other companies and a framework to work on to be able to resolve multi-vendor issues. And that's where we'll get into how exactly that works. We'll talk about how it works now. We'll talk about how our members wanted us to move to a different platform. But the whole idea is not to finger point the customer, to actually be able to go to that customer and say, hey, I can work with these other companies. I might need a little bit of information from you, but I have a relationship set up in a formal relationship where I can collaborate with other companies to isolation and or resolution of that problem. So that's what TSANet is really all about. When a rubber meets the road, customers don't become members of TSANet, but they become the beneficiaries of TSANet. This is our relationship slide, which basically kind of categorizes the different kinds of relationships to when you come into TSANet. When we started the organization, one of the big benefits of being a member of TSANet was you came into this alliance and you came into this big ecosystem, a group of companies that you automatically had a relationship with, whether you would actually work with them or not. And this grew and grew and grew, and actually now at the basic member, what we call open groups, is there's around 100-something companies in it. So you can come in to a basic or premium level relationship, and you've automatically then established that relationship with 100-something companies. That worked really good, and it still does work good. But in order for that to work, because you're going to have your competitors as well as your partners as part of that, what we had to do is we got to put some parameters around it that says if you're going to collaborate with each other and you're going to be obligated to do that, we've got to say that there's got to be some mutual customer between the two of you. And so typically what that ends up being defined as is a customer that has entitlement. So if you're receiving a call on the inbound side, and I get this quite a bit for people concerned about, I'm going to get barraged with phone calls, I don't want to open myself up to all these different companies. Well, you're getting the phone call one way or another. The only difference in TSANet is you're getting that phone call from one of your customers that another member called first. So there's nothing from a call volume perspective that should keep you concerned about joining into an open group. You're going to be obligated to work with those companies, but only obligated where it's one of your customers that you would be working with anyway. The other thing I'll talk about is just real briefly is this basic versus premium. And premium TSANet is actually a subset of basic. So there's a group of companies, and it's well into the majority of that group of 100-something companies that have decided to say, okay, I want to obligate myself at a higher level. So and it's typically more the mission critical type of relationship element. So 24/7 global, 2-hour SLAs and a SEV1, et cetera, that kind of stuff. But again, that customer's got to be entitled for that level of support. So there's a group of companies that said at a premium level, I'll obligate myself, if that customer's entitled to that, I'll obligate myself to working with other partners that are also premium members, and I'll conform to responding back at that higher level SLA. If my customer's entitled to that level of support, absolutely I will do that. So that's the difference between the premium and the basic TSANet. And that's the whole equation on the left-hand side of this of what we call open groups. So most members will come into either a basic or a premium relationship. What happened is on the right-hand side of the equation is this partner program groups, is that companies came to us and said, you know, this open group concept really solves the majority of the issues that I have when it comes to support collaboration, but sometimes I need something a little bit more strategic. I've got something that falls into the category in here lately of something like a solution support scenario where I've got together with a bunch of my partners and I'm providing a solution that all of us need to be able to collaborate at a very high level. And maybe we've already defined what the mutual customer is. We don't need to go through that entitlement process. Or maybe I've created a group with my partners. We've gone through a development process, but now we've moved out of that phase and we're into support scenarios where the users are in a production environment and we don't have a support relationship. I need to create some kind of collaboration support relationship with all of my partners. So we created the ability for our members to be able to host these groups using the framework, the legal framework and the operational framework of TSANet, but they would define what the elements of that relationship are, and they would define who participates in that group. So this is where we get into the basic versus a limited member. And a basic member comes in, they're part of the open groups, and then they can also either host or participate in any of these partner programs, whether it be a solution support group, a channel partner group, or a partner program group. And they can invite companies to come in, and they would only have a one-to-one relationship, and that's where we call limited members. So if you want to go to TSANet.org, you can see all the members that are part of this organization, and you can see what, not necessarily what relationships they have. We won't disclose that because some of these are confidential, but you'll see what level of membership they have. And if they're a limited member, that means they're in a one-to-one group, and they could participate in multiple one-to-one groups. But if they're an open group member, you'll see them categorized as basic or premium level members. Okay? Well, let's see. We're doing pretty good on time here. I want to do a quick demo of what TSANet looks like today and how it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the member web. Now, there's a lot of different ways. This is TSANet.org, and a lot of different ways that people will get into the member web. But this is basically a directory, right? And this is the collaboration mechanism of telling you what relationships you have, and then how do you actually go out and engage these companies. I've logged in here as an example. This is Dell EMC. Okay, and you can see here, this is what we call the My TSANet space. So this is essentially shortcuts to the directory. I've also got a partner program over here that they've developed. If I come down here and click on My Relationships, what this is going to do is going to show anybody here that I've got a relationship with. It could be the open group of basic, it could be an open group of basic and premium, or it could be a custom group in this case that I have. Okay, if I don't have a relationship with that company, I'm going to see them not highlighted, which means that there's a lot of companies here of the 600 something companies that don't participate with me, but they might participate in another custom group. But because they're members, if I wanted them to participate with me, very easy for me to pull them into my own custom group. So that's the other benefit of TSANet, is it's really easy to pull in existing members and even non-members. We make it really easy in a landing page, that kind of thing, to pull them in. But when it comes to collaboration, which is what I wanted to show you here, okay, if I'm Dell EMC, I need to engage Amazon. So what I can do is I can click on Amazon, and it's going to pull up what we call a contact document. And right here, this contact document is really split up into 3 different areas. The first part of it is, hey, this is before you call me, this is the information I need about our customer. Right? When I was talking about before in the basic TSANet, which is what this is the basic TSANet, we share that relationship. Essentially, Amazon is coming back to me and saying, this is the information I need about our customer before you engage me. And then down here, this is how I want you to engage me. Send this email to this support address, and I know that that's going to be a TSANet call coming in. And then down here, here's an escalation path that I have put in place in case something goes wrong. So every company and every relationship, and you might have multiple relationships, is going to have one of these contact documents. And if I go back here, I'll show you this real quickly. If I were to look at some partner program that I'm hosting, in this example, this is one called Tech Connect. I can basically, from a perspective of being the host of this partner group, if I need to contact one of my partners in this group, here's all of my partners. And it could be, get very granular with these documents as far as, okay, well, in this group, I want to guide these partners this way, or I want these specific partners to work with me this way, so I'm going to provide a different process for that to happen. So that's what the member web is. Very easy to use, very easy to update. Essentially what we're doing here is we're giving everybody one place to go to see how to collaborate, one place to go to update those documents. Okay, so very easy way to do this, and this is the way that we're working currently with our members. But they came back to us and said, we really want something a little bit more robust in a new platform. So what we've done is we have developed with our members this thing called TSANet Connect, and it's coming out this year. We're actually starting with some companies right now into this format, and we've picked some of the companies that are a little bit higher level volume calls than others, specifically because we want to be able to test this. So once we get it rolling, the objective is to have, I think, 60% of the companies on it by at least half year and have everybody on it by the end of this year. And I think it's going to be relatively easy once we get it going out. But I wanted to give you an idea about what the changes are and how that collaboration is going to be different. And it's essentially a forms-based approach. So instead of seeing that contact document, you're going to go into the member web and you're going to be presented with a form, and you're going to fill out that form. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. But the whole idea behind this was we wanted to be able to focus in on creating that collaboration and then acknowledging from the receiving end, yeah, I got that collaboration. I get that. This is how I'm going to work with you. And then once that happens, then actually TSANet gets out of the process. So it's a standard process we started out with an email workflow on how that goes back and forth, how you initiate the collaboration, how you acknowledge that collaboration was done. But then what we've done is we're connecting CRM tools like Salesforce and Zendesk, as well as other collaboration tools that we're looking at is connecting in like Slack and things like that. So what we've done from a TSANet perspective, from a data protection issue and data privacy, all that is that we're saying, okay, yes, this is how you're creating a collaboration. Yes, I understand you're creating that collaboration from the receiving side, and then we bow out of it. We're not collecting any information or anything like that because all that does is really just create problems. We had a system that we still have in place today called Case Exchange that does capture that kind of data. And what we found very quickly was a lot of our members would not take that kind of technology because of these issues in data protection and privacy. So what we've done is basically gone to this approach because we think it's a lot easier. And also, instead of other companies having to integrate through APIs into our workflow, basically now what we've done is we're using those companies' workflows to be able to make this happen. So it gets a little more complicated when we get into the CRM integration and all that. There's a lot of information that's already on our website. Paul has done 3 different webinars where we talk about that. I'm sure we're going to talk about even more, but I wanted to give you kind of the high level on what we're doing with TSANet Connect. So basically the way this would work, and instead of actually doing the demo, I just wanted to show you some slides because it's an email-based type approach. I'm not going to show you any of the Salesforce stuff or integration into that stuff, but essentially the directory now looks like this, where you'll be able to find your partners. You'll still have your favorites list, or where I was showing you the My TSANet space. Now basically you're going to have a directory, the same thing that's a proactive directory where you can start typing it in. It's going to pull it all up. You can put your favorites in there as well. And then when I was talking about you'll be presented with a form, this is basically what the form will look like. Now, basic and premium members will actually be able to change that form and customize it to what their needs are. And basic and premium members can even have multiple forms, right? But this essentially what will happen is it's going to pull your data in because the system knows who you are. You'll be able to put in the common customer information, be able to put in the problem information, and then depending on the relationship, you'll be able to select the priority based on the relationship that you have. So if you're a premium member, you've got higher level SLAs, you can define higher level priorities and you're going to get a response back. This is one of the big benefits that we're doing for our members this year in moving to this platform is we're actually going to be able to capture, yes, their call was placed, and yes, this was the priority. And in fact, we'll start a clock going and we'll trigger an email if that response doesn't come in within the priority that was selected. So that's one of the big things that we'll be able to give some metrics back to our users. So from a sender experience, if I'm placing a call, you're going to see that form. And then once I submit that form, I'm going to get an email back that looks something like this. that says, hey, if you need to escalate that call after the time is run out based on the priority, here's how you do that. So you would get information back from the company that you sent the escalation, the collaboration to. Here's basically information that you submitted. Okay, so you're going to get an email back that acknowledges that. And then on the receiving side, if I was one that was receiving that email, and typically it would be done by an email alias or a distribution list of some kind, then that email comes in, you're going to get something like this, and then you'll be able to click and respond back to that company, and you'll be able to say, yes, I acknowledge that this is a common customer of mine, and this is the engineer that I'm going to have work on the case. And so from that, after that's happened, that goes back to the person that submitted the call, and then basically TSANet bows out of that. Now, you could come in here very easily, and this is part of the integration thing where we get into other tools. If you had something like a Microsoft Teams or a WebEx or something like that, and that's how you wanted to work with this company, well, you just put that in there, and you're basically then telling that engineer that submitted the case, this is how we're going to work. Now, we're not going to capture any of that information, anything like that, because at this stage, once we've acknowledged the request, TSANet is out of it. So we're not going to have to worry about any of that data that's coming through. So that's basically in the email format how it works. Again, I would suggest you take a look at some of the webinars that Paul has already done. We get into a lot of detail about this. And then the other piece of this, obviously, is we're going to be contacting our members when we go into this new format, and we're going to try to get as many members once we've gone through our phase one to make sure we've got all the kinks worked out of it. We're moving everybody over to this system pretty quickly. So I wanted to give you an idea of it. It's not quite ready, but I felt it was inappropriate for me to not talk about this when this is exactly where we're going to be, where we're going with this. I think it's going to be a really good system. Finally give you some metrics that you wanted to have, and be able to work with your members even at a more streamlined level through TSANet. Okay, so that's really all that I have for us. I don't know if there's any questions. I would invite you to go out to TSANet.org. If you've got any questions, send it to membership@TSANet.org. I'll stick on a line here and see if we've got any questions from anybody. But other than that, if you don't have any questions, again, we're going to, if you came in late to this will be recorded. We'll send it out to everybody. You'll get an email from Stephanie at TSANet.org. And I appreciate everybody coming in to the webinar today. Thanks very much, everybody.